everyone! So I'm back for another series on research adventures, and this series of videos is all going to be on Jane Austen. Well, mainly on Jane Austen, but also on my work that I'm going to be carrying out at Chawton House, which is directly behind me. So for today, I'm going to take you on the Jane Austen Trail, which is around Chawton and takes you into the local town, which is Alton. And along the way, we're going to point out different bits of the trail, which is actually an official trail. So if you ever come down this neck of the woods, then come and see for yourself all the different things. I'm probably not going to point out absolutely everything that's on the trail because it gives you an excuse to come and check it out for yourself. But I will be pointing out quite a few interesting things along the way, including Chawton House, which is where we begin. So Chawton House was once owned by Edward Austen Knight, who was Jane Austen's brother, and she quite frequently came and visited and often stayed the night here. So this is where I'm going to be working for the next month, which if you want to know more about that, then do check out my blog, which is researchadventuresblog.wordpress.com. But come and follow me on the Jane Austen Trail. So the next point on the trail is this church, which is called St. Nicholas's Church. And if we just go to the back here, you'll notice this little sign, which is the only sign that points out this part of the trail. But Jane Austen's mother and her sister Cassandra are actually buried here in the graveyard. So it's just at the back of the building. There's not much to say that they are here, unless you actually go into the church itself. But here they are here, and as you can see, their gravestones are quite well preserved, and there is flowers that are laid just at the bottom, which tells you there have been visitors here that come and pay their respects. So it's just another little snapshot of history that tells you the Austen family really were here in this neck of the woods. Now, if you are coming to come and do the Jane Austen Trail, I'm probably doing this a little bit backwards. I think they would expect you to begin at Alton, which is the town nearby and where the local train station is, and make your way up to Chawton. I'm actually living at Chawton, so I'm going to take you from Chawton into Alton, as it were. So you actually get to see the journey that Jane Austen probably would have taken if she were visiting her brother or heading from her house, which is not too far away. You'll also notice it is a very sunny day, and if you've been checking out my Sydney videos, which I highly recommend, I had my sunglasses on and I had a hat on. Well, I thought in Britain it's probably going to rain, it's probably not going to be that sunny, and look how wrong I was. So apologies for any of the winking and blinking while I'm on this journey. So it tells you a lesson to always prepare for the sun, or prepare for all weathers, as it were. So let's head on the next part of the trail. Not too far down from Chawton House, we have the Jane Austen House Museum. And this is the house that Jane actually lived in from 1809 with her mother and her sister Cassandra. So it says up here that she lived here for the final years of her life, from 1809 to 1817. And this was where a number of her novels were actually written. And you can see why she was so inspired by the landscape around here. Now, I am going to do a separate video, if I'm allowed, inside the Jane Austen House Museum, so do check that out. But just to show you, it's not too far away from Chawton, which is up here. And it's a slightly busier area, so there are quite a number of visitors that come by here. But it is definitely something worth checking out. Now, just down from Jane Austen's house, we have Clinker Cottage, which was owned by the Clinker family, who owned a blacksmith shop that apparently provided all of the casements and locks for Jane Austen's house, which was right next door. Now, Jane actually wrote in her letter that there was a carriage that stopped outside this blacksmith, so apparently, right where next to all these cars are, presumably there was carriages that stopped right next to blacksmiths and perhaps went to go and visit Jane, or was heading up to Chawton, or she was getting out of her carriage to go into her house. I haven't read the letter myself, but I can imagine her coming up this, probably wouldn't look like this, but road such as this, and getting out of her carriage right next to the blacksmiths, right here. The next step in the trail is Alphonse's house, which was once owned by a Captain Benjamin Clement, who married a friend of Jane's called Anne Mary Prowling, whose house I haven't pointed out in this video but is further up next to the Jane Austen House Museum. And they got married and lived here from 1811. So this is the next step on the trail. What I would like to point out is that a lot of these houses are still privately owned and are still lived in by families. So if you want to go on the trail, then I do encourage you to do so, but be a little bit sensitive about the fact that it's still private residents that live here, and they probably won't want you poking inside their windows or anything like that. But it's definitely something to walk along and just admire that these houses have been here for quite a number of centuries. Wanting to do this trail, it's about 30 minutes walk from Chawton to Alton, or Alton to Chawton, depending on which way that you go, and most of it is a walkway, so it's quite safe for you to do. There's only one part where you have to walk across a bit of a dangerous road, so watch out for that. It's also signposted the whole way along, so it should be relatively easy to find. And do check out the Jane Austen Trail website, which I'll put details for in the description box below, which gives you even more information about the trail and different parts of the trail that you can see that I haven't necessarily pointed out here. Trail is the French Horn pub. Now, this would have been known by Jane Austen, and it was once owned by a man called John French, and it was a beer house. Now, according to the trail information, Jane Austen would have known about this beer house, but she would have not gone inside, as presumably it was inappropriate for a lady of her standing to be seen in such an establishment. Now, I am not a lady of standing, and I will probably be heading inside for a little tipple at some point in my journey, because I just think that it's really interesting to sit inside an establishment that's been here for at least 250 years. So it's actually down the road at the junction that I had to cross, and I almost missed it. So you have to turn left at the junction and you will find the French Horn. So definitely want to check out if you were doing this trail. Now, on the Jane Austen trail, there's not only Jane Austen things that you can see, but there's also plenty of history to do with the town itself. So here we have the Miss Bell's Fountain, and on this plaque here it says that it's a strangely long story. So do come and check out the story for yourself, and admire more of the history of Alton and Chawton. We are now in the town of Alton, and this is 74 High Street, which was once the home of Mr. Newman, who was known as an apothecary and surgeon. And Jane apparently visited him in 1811 with a friend. And after this visit, she was encouraged to write the humorous verse Lines on Maria Beckford. Now, I've been trying my hardest to try and find this poem, which is available on the Oxford Scholarly Editions website, but I wasn't able to download it before my visit today, so I'll probably post that on my blog if you want to check that out after. It's just amazing to think how different this high street is, with all its shops and cars and people walking up and down, compared to what Jane would have seen. I mean, probably some of these houses might have been here, but they certainly wouldn't have had all of these modern shop fronts. And there might have even been more trees and certainly carriage stands for carriages that were coming through. I just have a few more stops to show you, but here is the site of the Austen Grey and Vincent, which was the bank of Henry Austen, who was the brother of Jane Austen, from 1806 to 1811. Alas, this is no longer a bank. It appears to be some kind of personal home, but it's nice to see plaques like this up on homes to preserve their history and historic importance. And just a few doors down at number 4 High Street, we have the home of William Curtis, who was Jane's Alton doctor, or Alton apothe as she used to call him. And just across the road, we have the Curtis Museum, which I'm assuming has a link, but I might check that out later. So this is the last stop that I'm going to take you on. There are a few more places to see further on the trail just up here, but we've come to the end of the road, and alas, at the end of my trip. So like I said, there are a few more places to see on this trail, and I do encourage you to come along and have a look for yourself and to take the trail if you are able. It's only 30 minutes, as I said before, to walk along, and it's relatively peaceful. When you get into the town, there's quite a bit of car noise, but other than that, you can mainly only hear birds once you're out into the country. So it's definitely something to check out, and spot the different sites, download the trail map so that you know where you're going, and just wonder at all the different buildings that have existed here for over 300 years, and some of them even date back to the 13th century. So it's really interesting to see, really interesting to check out. What I'd like you to do is to subscribe to this video if you want to know more about historical things and more about Jane Austen, since that's what I'm going to be here for the next 4 weeks. Give this video a thumbs up and put a comment below on what you'd like to see next.